Well, as you can see, the rain is out. Hello and welcome to the Woodspeed Service Boxster Cup at a very wet and slightly miserable Donington Park. The weather has definitely changed from this morning when the weather looked alright when these drivers were qualifying around this circuit. It was almost sunny at that point and fairly cool. Now the wind's picked up and the rain has come down. It is certainly going to be tricky out there for the 25 drivers to navigate their way around the Donington Park circuit whilst keeping it comfortably on the road. You can see 14.5 degrees Celsius. The wind's up to 22 kilometres an hour, slightly more than it was when they were qualifying earlier on in the day. And the rain is definitely coming down. It's going to be really tricky in the craners and into the old hairpin on the opening couple of laps. You start to get a feeling. Again, these are the only times in the day where they'll be able to get a feeling for it, because they'll be jumping around, stopping on the grid, and getting ready for a race start. Should be an interesting one. Scott Evans will be the driver that will be starting for pole position. When it comes to the championship, though, things are looking interesting. Wayne Gregory, 307 points. Ryan Charters, who'll be starting on the front row of the grid on 278. Good time as well for drivers like Mike Thompson, who finds himself down in 7th in the championship to make some decent progress. 4th on the grid. They will be starting. You can see the rain and the water being pulled off the side of the car, just courtesy of how tricky it is. They'll be warming the tyres up as best they can and getting themselves in the operating window. But also, again, just starting to feel where the grip is. This is your sighter lap around the circuit, the formation lap, where you're seeing not only how wet the track is, but you're seeing where the wetter parts of the track are, and that is the same as to whether you're racing at the highest level of motorsport, as well as to when you're doing cup racing like this. You've got to know exactly how the circuit is and where you can take advantage of it. So you can see down here into the fog, yes, there's a lot of water that had been built up on the right-hand side of the circuit, basically in the braking zone of the Fogarty S. So Scott Evans will be starting this one from pole position. Ryan Charters will be starting from 2nd spot. Wayne Gregory, championship leader, will be started from 3rd, and Mike Thompson will be starting from 4th. We'll wait and see if race control do give them the benefit of the doubt and give them an extra green flag lap, at which point they'll be able to really see themselves into the circuit. You see that quite a lot in racing when the conditions are very different to how it was earlier on in the day. That's exactly what's happened. So they've got a 2nd green flag lap. So they'll roll their way around and then back into the box from this point. Just trying to, again, make sure that they've got enough time to see out the conditions. So 2 green flag laps for them. And now we'll take a look at the starting grid. So again, it's Scott Evans starting this one from pole position with Ryan Charters alongside the driver, 2nd in the championship at the moment, starting from 2nd position. Wayne Gregory, the championship leader, will be starting from 3rd position with Mike Thompson, 7th in the championship, starting from 4th place. Onto the 3rd row of the grid, and there'll be Perry Darling starting from 5th position, with Faye Noble Evans starting from 6th place. Then we've got Vikram Chadera and Darren King, the driver who's 3rd in the championship, starting all the way down in 8th. Not ideal. Of course, as we move further down the order, Graham Hurd will start from 9th to the final position. Inside the top 10, we'll have Anthony Levi starting from that 10th position. Sarah Thompson, who is battling at the back end of the top 5 of the championship, she's starting from 11th position, with Mike Kurtler alongside in 12th spot. William Kurtler will be starting from 13th position alongside Scott Adams. Then it's Barrington Darcy and Charlie Dye starting from 16th position. Still a fair few rows left to go. Tom Hale and Martin Mason will be starting from 17th and 8th position. The final couple of positions inside the top 20 with Eric Bridges and, of course, Stuart Warner. Then on the next page is where we find one of our heavy hitters of the championship, Ben Grucock, down in 21st position. Big shame for the driver who sat 4th in the championship, only 12 points behind Darren King for the top 3. Nick Lawrence will be starting alongside in 22nd position with David Hussey and, of course, Craig Horvath. One final driver on the grid in 21st position, 25th position, I can count, is Sarah Wood, who struggled a little bit in qualifying, and she'll be starting right the way down the order. So we can see how difficult it is. We can see the troubles and tribulations these drivers will be dealing with. It'll be 25 minutes across the race. So plenty of time for them to settle themselves into the race and then go on the attack. I think the most important bit is to get yourself into the rhythm comfortably. We'll say from race control, I said 25 minutes. The note from race control is it's actually a 23-minute race because they've had 2 green flag laps. They've removed 2 minutes from the race distance, so it will just be 23 minutes. Still plenty of time for you to work your way into the window. You can see a few of those drivers, they're backing off a little bit from the grouping ahead, so they can kind of attack the Fog ES a little bit harder on this formation lap, so they can actually get a little bit of a feel as to where the grip is. Smart move. And again, they're just it's not going to be an easy race. I think the most important thing that every single one of these 25 drivers needs to be telling themselves for at least the first lap of this race is stay out of trouble, because the rain's not going anywhere. It is still coming down here at Donington Park, and it is definitely going to be with us for the entirety of this 23-minute race. And so, you know, any drama on that first lap, your back will be very much against the wall, but if you can keep it clean and work your way through, get a good start, that will be critical. Obviously, it is still a standing start, and it's tight on that grid as well, as we always expect in the Wood Service Boxster Cup, as we saw as well in the race earlier on in the day with the Porsche Club Motorsport Championship. It is not a staggered start when it comes to the rows. So row 1 is the entirety of row 1, i.e. they are in line with each other left to right, and then row 2 is the one that's staggered and then slightly off centre to them, but they're also alongside each other, which means it's more about the inside line going into the first corner, and means that you need to make sure that you're getting a good launch. It is going to be tight down there into the first corner, as you expect with 25 cars. Everyone's windscreen wipers will be probably turned up to 11 on that race down to the first corner, as the spray will be kicked up just a touch for those running a little bit further down. Let's just see what they can do. Obviously, the marshals navigating them all into their positions. Not easy to. It's kind of basically navigating a car park as you try and find where your spot is and where the marshals want you to be. As those that are sat at the front end of the field will have a long time to wait before they can go racing. So for Scott Evans, for Ryan Charters, for Wayne Gregory, Mike Thompson, all that lot towards the front, they've been sat there probably for not far off a minute and a bit now. As the marshals get everyone into position, 23 minutes goes onto the clock. We wait for the green flag at the rear end of the field. There it goes. So the lights will come on and this race will begin. It is time, of course, for the Woods Food Service Boxster Cup to get underway. The first race of the weekend, and a big one for the championship. Not long left to go, just 4 races in the title race. As we get ourselves ready, the lights will come on the right-hand side. You'll see the back end of them, and then they'll go out, and we'll be racing down to the first corner. We are underway here at Donington Park. Good launch from our pole sitter of Scott Evans there on the inside, but it's a much better one, I think, coming from Wayne Gregory as they race their way down to the first corner. Look at this going to the outside. It's not been a good second phase of the start from our pole sitter Scott Evans, as Ryan Charles is going to try and get around the outside of the first corner. Make sure you don't go in too deep as the spray's been kicked up. And I said that as a couple of drivers have gone too deep, straight out into the gravel trap. I said you want to get through the opening phase of the race cleanly. Well, a couple of drivers have not. It is going to be Scott Evans leading, though, as we come down the Craner curves. You can see plenty of 2 wide heading down the Craners on that opening lap, as you'll try and pick them through, going up towards the likes of McLean's, the likes of Coppice as well. There's some side-by-side a little bit further down the order as they funnel their way through. No major dramas, though. That's the important bit. Just that little bit at turn 1. Other than that, it's been plenty clean enough. There goes your race leader. All of them keeping on the road as they head up the hill at McLean's. Kind of focused through the spray. And I say it's been kind of where it's been raining the heaviest up at the McLean's Coppice section, and that, to be fair, down at turn 1 and the Melbourne hairpin. Big centre the inside, going into Coppice there as they go side by side through Coppice and out onto the Starkey Straight. At the moment, it is still our race leader in the hands, of course, of Scott Evans. Into the chicane at the Fogger ES they go. keeping it nice and clean, making sure they don't run too far out over to the left-hand side. There is a look at your race leader, the 44 of Scott Evans. Second place is Ryan Charters directly behind. And there is the attacks coming in. That's a big send to the inside, though, from, I believe, the 99 of Hurd, just trying to make that move, going down into the Melbourne hairpin, and that was a big send indeed. It's not going to work out in favour. I think they're actually going to drop back, having a poor exit. Really tight line there. Probably couldn't put the power all the way down onto the race circuit. There is the 36. We'll update you with the order as they cross the line. It is indeed now Charters leading, so there's been a mistake from Evans at some point. Charters is leading from Evans, from Wayne Gregory, who has got up into third position, and then Faye Noble Evans, who will be into fourth position and all that. Darling, then Darcy, who's come up 9 positions on that race start in the number 27. So a very solid start for Darcy, as they're all trying to filter their way through. Again, wide lines down into turn 1, as you would expect, as they make sure they're trying to just stay on the racing surface. There is the number 6 of Mike Thompson, who started from 4th position. That white, black and red car, the one that's predominantly white, that was the car that went on at turn 1. So they were the one that went through the gravel trap and desperately trying to work their way up the order. 19th position, you can see on the left-hand side of your screen on that tower. That's where Mike Thompson has ended up. Big look to the inside on the 51 of Warner. That was a big send there, just trying to get through, and it will indeed be the position going the way of Mike Thompson. So just getting past Warner with still Warner probably was a bit kind of aware that that move was going to happen, going down into the old hairpin, but certainly not one for the faint of heart. And you can see the rain is definitely heavier up this end of the circuit. Hard to spot them through the spray, the rain and the water on the lens as they head up to Coppice. Again, it's very, very tricky up at this part of the circuit. This is what the drivers all have to navigate. You know, obviously you can see it there on the camera, how much wetter it is at this part of the circuit than it is, say, down on the start-finish straight, where, yes, it's still raining, don't get me wrong, but the rain's not coming from that side. But there's the big send to the inside from the 99. Unbelievable. There goes Hurd trying to make the move. The 81 opens up the door. That was Darling, who's dropped a couple of positions and all of that. Darcy's also come through, gained 9 positions on the first lap of the race, gains a couple more for good measure, as that's a big, that's going way too deep. There's going to be contact. Oh no, and Darcy has gone for a spin. Hurd sends it in way too hard, going into the final corner, and Graham Hurd makes contact with Barrington Darcy, who'd done such a good job to gain all those positions, but it was far too much of a commitment. You could see that was too late on the brakes. They both wait for the traffic to pass before getting back going again, but I'm sure there'll be a lot of frustration brewing between the pack down at that end of the circuit. Big shame indeed, but still the race lead will hold in favour of our championship, the second place in the championship, Ryan Charters, who obviously got past Scott Evans there, rather, into the final part of the first lap, and the lead that has been held. Evans, though, did set the fastest lap of the race on the previous one. No switches between the top 5, at least, on the previous lap. It's still Charters from Evans, from Gregory, from Faye Noble Evans, and then from Darling, who hangs on to 5th position. For those further back, you can see there's a bit of drama heading down the Craner curves. Someone's pulled off to one side, as there is definite problems. I think that is the 99, who I would assume has some rear right damage. Would it be rear right? Yeah, it would have been rear right because of where they went in, but it looked like it was almost rear left from the angle that we were seeing there. No, it's track and fine on the rear left. But definitely there is something wrong on the number 99 of Graham Hurd after that big send to the inside. You can see the hazards on, so that car is on a trip back into the pit lane. Of course, they do have a race later on in the day to deal with, and to be fair, if the rain keeps up with this, you're definitely going to be needing all those lights to navigate your way through the final portions of this afternoon's racing. Inside look coming in as the number 60, Anthony Levi, just getting past the 55 there. That is, of course, driven by Scott Adams. Scott Adams has dropped down a little bit. He's gained a couple of positions, actually. I'll update that one. Scott Adams was running in 16th place at the start of this lap and has actually gained a little bit, although that said, Barrington Darcy is going to come to the outside at the penultimate corner and will go for the up and under. Darcy, who had gained quite a few positions over the first couple of laps of the race. Charters continues to lead. Wide line coming in, though, from pole sitter Scott Evans, who relinquished that race lead earlier on in this race. And you can see the championship leader there working through the straight in third position. They've both pulled about, or they've all rather pulled about 3.5 seconds on Noble Evans, who is in fourth position at the moment as they work their way down the crane of curves. Battle for fifth position there between Darling and King. And King is desperate to try and find that way through. Darren King, the driver who sits, third in the championship rather, right on the rear end at the moment to try and get past. Still cannot make the move. The number 17 is Darren King, the 81 is Perry Darling, who is the driver that is in that fifth position. The green striped car is Perry Darling, the kind of silver on the left. That one there is, of course, Darren King, as they work their way through McLean's up towards Coppice once more. And again, it's the timing here for the move is so critical in the rain. You've got to focus on getting a run out of a corner. You can't just rely on it being on the slipstream or dropping it down the inside, big on the brakes. You need to make sure that you nail the corner, or even 2-3 corners before you want to make the move. Everything has to be done well in advance, because there's this whole thing of being too close at the wrong time. Like if you're too close going into the fog at ES, then you can't attack the fog at ES too quickly, and then you can't get a move down into the Melbourne hairpin. You need to be the right distance back to actually go through the fog at ES quickly, and then you can attack going down to the Melbourne hairpin. That's what I mean about thinking a few corners ahead, as Perry Darling will take the defence. Big snap as the brakes being pushed to their absolute limit heading down into the Melbourne hairpin. And there's been no opportunity for a move going in for Darren King, so has to settle for sixth position at the moment. Do have a car in the pit lane. I believe that would have been the 99 coming into the pit lane of Graham Hurd. There you go, you can see on the right-hand side, you can see it's not tracking straight in there. It was a pretty big hit, of course, with Barrington Darcy earlier on. There goes the switch, though, and that'll be Darren King then up into fifth position. So just a better drive off the final corner, and that'll be the number 17 of Darren King. Currently driver third in the championship, moving up the order, but still the top two in the championship, comfortably ahead. Second in the championship leads the race. The championship leader sits in third, so realistically for the number 17, going to be losing a fair amount of ground on the championship. You can hear the rain hitting down here quite hard at the old hairpin, and it's raining quite heavily as they climb up the hill as well. So it's definitely got heavier since the start of the race, especially around the back end of the circuit. The rain definitely picking up. It was not scheduled to rain this heavily. I remember having a conversation with one of the camera guys. I'm very sorry. I might have jinxed it. I don't believe in the commentator's curse, but I did say, nah, it's not supposed to rain that hard today. Whoops. Anyway, it's definitely raining now. So all of the drivers are having to deal with it, as well as all the marshals, all the camera operators. It is not an easy day out there for anyone. There comes the move around the outside, or the hold around the outside, all the differing lines going through McLean's. I've always found a wider line here in the wet generally is the preferable one anyway. That inside line, it can just be a little bit too tight, and it gets very, very slippery. The water basically pools a little bit on the inside. It runs like a river down towards Starkeys, basically, and it can be very awkward indeed. There is the move from Barrington Darcy, so just getting past the number 90, I believe, of Thompson. So Barrington Darcy working their way back up the order now into 12th position. Obviously was embroiled in that contact with the 99 of Graham Hurd at the final corner. And that could be another position being lost potentially for the 90 of Sarah Thompson, feeling the pressure from Anthony Levi behind. And this is the fight now for 13th position. Oh, who's that? He's been off, and it's off and deep into the gravel. That is the number 38 at McLean's. So that is going to be Eric Bridges, who will probably need a bridge to get out of that. That is not ideal. That is also, it's buried itself. As the rear wheels are spun up, it's just dropped down into the pit lane as well. We've got Evans. So what has happened to our pole sitter? Scott Evans, safety car is going to come out onto the circuit, and I'm not shocked by that. There's a car that's stationary that needs to be rescued. But what on earth has happened to the number 44 of Scott Evans, which has come into the pit lane from second position in this race? Has there been contact? Has there been something else? what has happened. The 53 will go through the shot. That was Wayne Gregory, the driver who's in second place now in the race, courtesy of Evans' return into the pit lane. But the race is neutralised. Once they've completed, actually, they've already completed a lap fairly recently. Let's go through the order because, of course, as you'll see, the Marshall team wait to recover the car. Once all the cars have gone through, then they have a space, and that's when they'll be able to go and recover the 38 of Eric Bridges. But at the moment, it is Ryan Charters leading the way. Of course, in second position, it's Wayne Gregory in the number 53 car. In third position, it's Faye Noble Evans now. He's done a great job. And of course, the 81 of Perry Darling is then in fourth position. The 17 that belongs to Darren King will be in fifth position. And then it is the 66 of Vikram Sudera in sixth position. Kurtler, of course, is the first of the Kurtlers, the 36 of William Kurtler that will be in seventh position. Evans is in the pit lane, so obviously there'll be some extra positions dropped down. Ben Grucock up to what will be eighth position now, as the safety car does indeed join the circuit. Then it's the 72 of Mike Kurtler that will be in ninth position, and Charlie Dye will be rounding out the top 10. Behind that, it will be Barrington Darcy. Then, of course, the number 90 of Sarah Thomas. Then Levi, then Adams, then Thompson, the number 6 of Mike Thompson, who went off down at turn 1. Then there is Hale, Mason, Horvath, Warner, Hussey, Wood, Lawrence and Bridges, the drivers running out in this race now, because, of course, we did see Graham Hurd work their way into pit lane, and we know that Scott Evans is also in the pit lane. So they've been picked up now by the safety car, so all those gaps will be zeroed. The Marshall team will work as quick as they can to get that car out of the gravel trap. I went through that list and I completely ignored the fact that, of course, Bridges was in the gravel as well. As much as we've got two cars in the pit lane, we've got Bridges in the gravel and definitely out of this race. Bit of damage as well on the front end of Barrington Darcy's car. That's on the front right, so it wasn't to do with the contact between themselves and Hurd, because obviously Hurd came in and made contact with the left side. The Marshals waiting for the race to be fully neutralised and the pack to go through, and are already probably waiting for the Zoom Boom to work its way over and rescue Eric Bridges' car. I would suspect this is not the end of the race. I would suspect that they'll be able to get that car rescued, and the race should get underway. 8 minutes and 30 seconds to rescue one car. There it is. Obviously, the assistance. I did get told once to not call it a JCB, because JCB's a yellow and this is a brand of blah, 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 blah. Boring. But it is being rescued anyway. That is the important bit. So the Marshals working quite quickly. You've got to be quite careful. This is the whole thing. You can see where it's slid off on as it's come through. It's clearly had a moment on the rear end, and as they've tried to catch it, it's probably done a 360 and gone straight into the gravel. And you can kind of see just watching the tyre tracks as to how it's gone over. And with that, it's buried itself quite deep in that first bit of gravel. That's why the wheels weren't moving straight away. Now they do start rolling as the Marshals are able to get that car out of the way. Hopefully the race will be back underway in a lap or so's time. Obviously, they won't rush anything. If you pull that car too quickly through the gravel, well, the car will... It's like sandpaper, isn't it? It'll just get absolutely destroyed underneath. So they've got to be quite careful with how they do it. But let's be honest, they're well versed here at Donington Park with getting those cars out of the way. But they're going to drop it behind the Marshall post so it can then be returned to the garage, where on a low loader, where the team will be able to work on it and get it sorted out for the next race. Because again, we do have a second race later on today. It's at 17:50, so it's only in a couple of hours, so they don't have long to sort out that car and get it back out into the race. You can see the entire pack here that's been picked up by the safety car. Big talking points in all of this, of course, is the fact that, of course, it is the driver who's second in the championship leading this race. The driver who's leading the championship is now second in this race. And Wayne Gregory will be really eyeing up a potential victory here to extend that championship lead heading into the race later on this afternoon. But one that I would like to talk about is that Ben Grucock's made a great charge from the rear of the field from, what was it, 24th position, 22nd position on this grid. It was 21st position on this grid that Ben Krukok started. Is now running in 8th position. So very, very impressive for Ben to move up into that 8th position. The order, at least to the top 10 at the moment, as you can see, everyone protect themselves from the rain. There's a lot of umbrellas, a lot of brollies being used around here. In fact, I saw quite a lot on the start-finish straight earlier on, and well, yeah, there's still a fair few out with the fans that have come out for the racing here at Donington Park this afternoon. Charters lead the race from Wayne Gregory, from Faye Noble-Evans, from Darling, from King, from Sudera, and then the 36 of William Kurtler is in 7th position, Ben Krukok in 8th position, then it's Mike Kurtler in 9th position, and it is Charlie Dye who rounds out the top 10. Safety car remaining out at the moment. If the safety car lights go out, it will generally be on the exit of the fog ES, so they could get that note from race control. There we go. Well, I see going into the fog ES, it's fine. At the end of the second sector. So the safety car lights go out. That is the indication to the field that we're about to go back racing again. So Charters will need to hold firm at the front of the field. Has the fastest lap by over a second and a half. So clearly Charters has the comfortable pace on the field. We'll be aware of that, but obviously, to be fair, Wayne Gregory had a car ahead of him and couldn't really make that progress in the opening phases. They're already trying to get some heat back into that tyre. You can see they're already pushing basically towards the end of this safety car as they try and wrestle their way around this circuit. They'll be back racing once more. And it will be into the control of Ryan Charters. The race is back underway. Green flag is in the air. They race their way down to the first corner, and it's a comfortable restart from Ryan Charters, kept up with a pace car. They've got a car coming out of the pit lane as well, which will make things extra awkward on the run down into turn 1. I believe it might be Lawrence who's just rejoined the racetrack, but it is going to be Ryan Charters leading the race. Wayne Gregory, second position, and has already dropped a fair way back. Then, of course, it's Faye Noble-Evans in the very distinctive. It doesn't look that distinctive from here because of the spray, but the closer you look at it, the more very distinctive it actually is. That silver car in the middle of your shot, that's the one that's just come out of the pit lane, trying to drop a lap down, just on the right-hand side. It is indeed the 61 rather of Lawrence. There's the look to the outside. Barrington Darcy just dropping back the position at the moment. Darcy feeling the pressure, and I think that might have been Lever actually that worked their way through. I'll update you with that one in a second, but Barrington Darcy was trying to make the move on Charlie Dye and couldn't quite make that one stick. There is the 90 of Thompson. There is the 51 going a lap down. There's the 90 of Thompson, being Sarah Thompson. Of course, I know there's two Thompsons. One's with a P, one's without a P. That's the one without a P. Sarah Thompson in her name. So she's having to settle at present for 12th position, dropping a little bit back off, but obviously having a little bit of lap traffic in a way as well as they head down now into the Melbourne hairpin. 2 minutes and 55 seconds left to go in this race. We'll have 2 laps left. Big slides on the brakes as you can see your race leader head down into that penultimate corner. Faye Noble-Evans is going on the attack. I said it was distinctive. You can really see it through there, the black and pink. And Faye Noble-Evans is going on the attack now for 2nd position. Noble-Evans sits 8th in the championship at the moment on 202 points. This could be a pretty handy gain if there's a potential for a 2nd place on the line. I think the victory might be a little bit too far down the road. This is back to Sarah Thompson and the crew. I don't know who else is involved in this fight at the moment, but it is certainly around that sort of 12th position fight where we were seeing them as they head now into the final corner. This is at the rear of the field as Hussey's closing back down on the likes of Wood and Horvath as they all cross the line. It will be Charters from Gregory from Noble-Evans. That's sure how things unfold at the front of the field. For everyone a little bit further down, it's a little bit more up in the air as they head their way down the Craner curves. There's Barrington Darcy behind Charlie Dye, behind Mike Kurtler as well. Kurtler, the one hanging on at the moment in that number 72 car to 9th position. Big slide coming in from Barrington Darcy as they head their way up now. Bit of Stone's being kicked up, and that is because there's a big moment. Mike Kurtler has been off. Big slide as they work their way out of the whole old hairpin, and they'll be thankful that there wasn't a barrier visited or anything like that. We're not stuck in the gravel as well. We'll be able to rejoin the race, but for Mike Kurtler, there'll be no top 10 for them. So Barrington Darcy moves up to 10th position. Charlie Dye moves up to 9th. The big slides as they come over the crest at McLean's and now down the back stretch. There has been a bit of a drop. Faye Noble Evans has dropped back behind Darling. So now down into 4th position as Faye Noble Evans will go back on the attack. Is there something more to have been speaking of in that fight, or was it just an overtake from Perry Darling, who will now defend coming down into the Melbourne Air? But there is the contact as the 17 gets to the inside. Darren King makes contact with Faye Noble Evans. He probably didn't know. It was right in the blind spot of that Boxster and just couldn't quite spot that Darren King had got alongside on the exit of the Melbourne hairpin, and is now way too deep. Goes Darren King at the final corner. So it goes from slightly embarrassing to very embarrassing for Darren King, unfortunately, as they'll rejoin the race circuit and head back down towards turn 1. It will still be Charters leading from Gregory, but of course Perry Darling up now into 3rd position. Faye Noble Evans down into 4th. Big look to the inside coming in there from I wasn't sure who that was actually. I didn't want to commit too badly, but there was a big look to the inside of the first corner. That is the big talk there. As we'll look further down, I think it might have been the 66 then of Sudera, who made the move to the inside of Darren King. So Sudera's working their way up the order, and Darren King going backwards ever so slightly here. And now we'll have William Kurtler not too far back. And Ben Grucock is kind of close to this fight as well. We're on the last lap of this race. And so there is quite a lot of fights. It's not that distant for the race lead as well. You can see them coming up and over the top towards Coppice now, as Charters leads from Gregory and then from Faye Noble. I think it's from Perry Darling and then from Faye Noble Evans. There is your race leader. And it certainly will be Charters at the front of this field. Second in the championship, looking to gain that little bit of ground heading into the final race of the day and preparing for the final race of the season, getting that gap as close as possible. At the moment, it will be coming down ever so slightly as Perry Darling at the moment hanging on to the final spot on the podium. Has it been a good exit from Faye Noble Evans? We didn't see the reasons to why they switched around. Faye Noble Evans dropped back to 4th position despite looking quite strong earlier on this one. The timer has hit 0. They'll all be aware of that we're on the final moments of this race. Final corner about to be ticked off, and it'll be another victory for Ryan Charters. The driver who sits 2nd in the championship will close down the leader, but not by maybe as much as it feels just. Wayne Gregory up to 2nd position. A fantastic drive as Charters will top the podium. Then Gregory, then Perry Darling in 3rd position. Faye Noble Evans will cross the line as the top 4 are separated by 3.3 seconds. Great drive from Sudera up to 5th position as well, as Darren King will get dropped back late on in the race. We'll see Will Kurtler cross the line. Ben Grucock up to 8th position from 21st on the grid. And Barrington Darcy was sent off, had a great progress made, was sent off at the final corner and was able to rise back up to 9th position, just ahead of Charlie Dye. Superb driving. Great race for the tricky conditions that were, and I will say now that the race has come to a close, the rain's dissipated a little bit. It's not coming down anywhere near as heavily as it was right through the middle of the race. They had to deal with some very tricky conditions in all of that, as we'll see them come across the line. Of course, there are some retirements to speak of. One from the 44 of Scott Evans. Not 100% sure as to what happened to that car, but it came back into the pit lane to retire from the race. Of course, Eric Bridges, who we saw off in the gravel trap and had to be rescued. And then, courtesy of that big move on Barrington Darcy, it will be the retirement for Graham Hurd. Just, I think, breaking a toe link or something in that vein. If it is a toe link, it's relatively easy to fix. Not something that you can do quickly in the race, but something that can be done basically quickly behind the garage shutters, effectively. The fastest lap of the race, by the way, came in from Barrington Darcy at 2 minute 1.1, which was over a second faster than your race leader. So very impressive there from Barrington Darcy to work up to that position. But to be fair, I think they'll be sat thinking there should have been a lot more from that race, and 9th position won't necessarily be enough, but a great victory from Charters, who won over the line. It ended up being by 2 seconds, as we'll look at the provisional results from the race. Ryan Charters, of course, will take that victory by 1.9 seconds over Wayne Gregory in the number 53 car. Then it'll be Darling, Perry Darling in 3rd position, Fane Noble Evans in 4th position, with Vikram Sudera in the top 5. Darren King will take 6th position with, of course, in 7th place, belonging to William Kirtler. Then Ben Grucock, and of course Perry Darcy, Barrington Darcy in 9th position, with Charlie Dye rounding out the top 10. On to the next page, where we'll see Thompson, that one of course being the number 6 of Mike Thompson, then Levi, then of course Adams, Mason, the number 90 of Sarah Thompson, before we'll get Hale, Horvath, Hussey, and unfortunately a big shame for Mike Kirtler, who obviously went down the order after that big spin coming out of the old hairpin. Wood did finish the race, but a lap down, as did Lawrence and Warner. And of course there was 3 retirements from this race, being Evans, Bridges and Hurd. Of course I said before, but again Evans came into the pit lane to have the car repaired. Bridges ended the race in the gravel trap, and Hurd broke the car after trying to get past Barrington Darcy. There's only a couple of hours until the next race, so they don't have particularly long to repair any vehicles, or keep that confidence high, maybe rebuild it in some way, and maybe hope that these conditions take a slight turn for the better. We will be back at 17:50 for the second race of the Woods Food Service Boxster Cup. We'll see you then.